This is episode 118, isn't it? Not 117?
Oh, that's true. I can't fix it now. I'll have to go back and fix it.
another planet, there's just so much potential for making brand new discoveries. My name is Katie Stack Morgan, and I study rocks on other planets. So Mars 2020 will be seeking signs of ancient life in the rock record of Mars. The instruments are really well suited to look for things that we call biosignatures, which are signs that ancient life might have been there in the past. To really confirm that life had a hand in creating those signatures or textures, we really do need to bring those samples back. We have capabilities in laboratories here on Earth that we can't fit in a compact instrument on a rover. This is the Mars Yard, and this is where our rovers practice driving over rocky terrain. We work together with the engineers to understand what type of terrain the rover can handle so that we can get to the most exciting places, which are often the most challenging. So our landing site for Mars 2020 is Jezero Crater. What's really exciting about Jezero is that it has a beautifully preserved delta. They tend to be a really good place to preserve evidence of past life. And we look for things like organic matter that get concentrated in the rocks of a delta. So this rock is a sandstone, not unlike a rock that we might actually find in Jezero Crater. We would be interested in sampling a rock like this to understand what each individual sand grain has to tell us about Mars and its evolution. Growing up as a kid, we used to go on lots of hikes and would visit national parks for summer vacations. So when I found out that I had the opportunity to combine geology and love of the outdoors with exploring rocks on another planet, I thought, this is really the perfect type of thing for me to do. Not only could I work on an interesting science project, but I could do it with a big team of people all working together with a focused goal. And I thought, that's what I want to do.
Well, hello everybody. Today we were supposed to have Tyler Bowman join us, but today you've got just myself and Jerry Hubbell, still, part of the A team here. So we're happy to be with you. Tyler, is still customer service is extremely busy, working with handling customer requests and technical advice and that kind of thing. So. He has to bow out today. But I did want to give you an update that we will be announcing winners for the Astrophotography contest. Should be all announced on Wednesday. So looking forward to that. And as I think for all of you that participated in our first Explore Scientific Astrophotography contest. So anyhow, what you see behind me here, I wanted to show something new to you, which is some new giant binoculars. These are 120 millimeter giant binoculars with a 45-degree type of prisms, and very, really robust mount for it. And if you're curious about price, we haven't settled yet on price yet. Why am I going out of focus? Okay, here we go. We haven't settled on price yet, but it looks like it's going to be maybe as a package, like in the $3,000 range, something like that. That does not include the tripod. This is on my photo tripod right here. So this head can fit onto most standard camera tripods, but fairly considerable weight, and with this wide angle lens here, it doesn't really give you a good view of what this is all about.
It does look much bigger. It looks much bigger once you stand up next to it. It looks bigger instead of being up against the camera. Yeah.
So it's got like a dovetail arrangement where it fits in there, and here you go. And they're not terribly heavy. I mean, they're still one hand manageable, but you have a plate that's down here. There are 2 attachment points for it, so it's really secure. Of course, these are retractable dew shields that are on it, and this is an achromat. They're not Apo binoculars, but we're thinking of probably offering them maybe with minus violet filters, something like that. I did use this looking at the Orion Nebula, and it looked very, very nice. So, when you're using two eyes to look at something, it's really amazing because it looks, you really do get kind of this 3D, effect. Brighter stars look like they're physically closer to you, and fainter stars look like they're.
What's the focal ratio? And
This is their focal length on these is 660 millimeters.
oh, okay,
So, yeah,
that's pretty good.
yeah. And it's new, so I'm still learning about all the materials and everything that were used in the design. But you got like a twist lock right here, and that lets you remove the eyepieces. So any of the 1¼ eyepieces work, and they're individual focus. And you've got, the interpupillary adjustment right here, so you get it set up for you. But very nice. There's also a little mounting plate up here, or a place to mount something, so maybe you could put like a reflex sight up there, or a red dot finder, something like that, or even just a regular viewfinder. But it is fun to use giant binoculars. Fantastic for looking at broad swaths of the Milky Way. Throw a couple of oxygen 3 filters in there and look at things like the Veil Nebula or something like that. So I'll be adding something. I'll be adding this to my repertoire of observing equipment as well. So, but really excited about these. It's got a nice gold trim here, and you can't see it in the video, but the white is kind of this pearlescent, kind of not glittery, but like a car paint job.
Like a pearl, pearl paint.
Yeah, pearl. It's got a little sparkle to it, so it looks very nice, very beautiful. And the mount, again, is just really, really robust. This is all like solid machine parts here. Very, very, very well done. And so that's what's new. We do have some other models of giant binoculars that are coming down the pike here as well. And I will be introducing those as as we go along. But Michael Whitaker said price, question mark. I'm thinking that with the mount, because they are sold separately, we're probably looking at around $3,000, something like that. So without the mount, if you already have like a parallelogram for giant binoculars, maybe in the $2,400 range, something along those lines. So, but that's where we're at. That is where we're at this time.
Cool.
Yeah.
Those look great.
Yeah. You'll have to.
I'd like to see. I'd be interested in looking at the moon with them, with like a 6mm, 8mm eyepiece, maybe.
Oh, right. Yeah.
That'd be kind of cool.
I'm gonna have to try that out myself. I'm thinking that I would use like the 8.8mm 82-degree eyepiece.
Yeah. Right.
Something.
Right.
Yeah. It would.
That would really bring the relief into. I think it would have some kind of 3D effect, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's more of a surface that seems reachable than compared to like a deep sky object.
Oh, sure. But they're really wide field, and it's fairly fast F ratio, so I think it's f5.5 or something like that. So, but not so fast of an F ratio that you get a lot of edge distortion, those kinds of things. So
could you what kind of focusing range does it have? You don't think you'd be able to put a 2x converter on it, would you?
I have no idea. I have to try it out. Usually binoculars are not designed to be real high power.
Right.
Right.
Because you have to move the thing continuously if you're tracking the moon or whatever, or planet. It takes takes a little bit of work to do that.
Sure.
But just to get the impact, of the view that close up, I think would be pretty awesome.
Right.
You'd have to put them on a mount, I guess, a tracking mount.
you know, you get it wide enough field eyepiece, you know, 82-degree eyepieces, it's going to stay in the field
Yeah.
for a long time, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And you can really, you know, of course, at real higher powers like that, you're going to have to really nail your focus. But you know,
Right.
they're individually adjustable, so
It'd be a challenge. It'd be a good challenge to try out anyway.
right, yeah. As soon as these clouds go away, you know, here in Arkansas, I will take a peek at the moon, and I'll call you, Jerry, in the middle of the
Okay.
night, and let you know. Yeah. So we already have requests to have people review it and that kind of thing. So
Okay, good.
we'll go down that way. So let's see who's with us today. We've got I can see Book Davies here. Let's go up to the top of this. Stefan Del Praz with us. Mike Wiesner. Mike, you had a question about the 32 gigabyte card, and we think that 32 gigabyte card should work, but we're going to test it just like you did with the action camera that you reviewed and see if there's something that we need to look at there. Bergman Scooter's on with us, Tim Myers, Aaron Thompson, James the Astrophotographer, Dusty Haskins, Marco Pola. He says, hello, the triple conjunction was really cool yesterday. That's cool.
Oh, good.
Andrew Mount, okay, says hello. Jeff Wise says hello, community. Pekka from Sweden says hello from Stockholm, so that's great. Stefan says, I was out in Drummond, Victoria this weekend. 0 light pollution. I am jealous. I am really jealous. The skies were amazing. You know, I imagine out there too, there's really, really transparent skies, so it's got to be beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Cameron Gillis says hello from rainy Seattle. Norm Hughes says hello, or good afternoon. Thomas Walker says hello from the rainy UK. It's nice that people from all over the world watching here. Richard Grace giving us a big A, so that's great. And he says life is good. Heli Aviator, that's David Eing. He says hello, everyone.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And yes, Book, you did make it. So we're back at our old broadcasting time at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Theras Cubus says hello, everyone.
Got quite a few new names that I haven't heard before.
Oh, yeah. Theras Cubus says 2 Appos made to a Bino. These are not Appos. They would be a lot more money if they were. You know, we're looking, gosh, if they were Appos, they'd probably be in the $4,000 range. So, but, you know, when you're looking at deep sky objects, wide field objects, you really don't need Appo, you know. I mean, it's nice.
Not for dim. Yeah, the only time it makes a difference when you have really bright objects like Vega or the limb of the
Yeah,
moon.
really
you'll
bright
see the
star.
color fringe. You'll see the blue fringing on those.
The
But
minus violet filter can cut that. So
yeah, but other than that, you pretty much don't have any issue.
that's true. Astro, and I can't read this. This is dark red lettering over dark blue. So I'm sorry, but he says Astro. I think it's Astro something Canuck or something. I always found when observing with one eye, the closed eye would start feeling fatigued. I would like to add something like this to the kit. Yes. And Richard Grace wants to know this is going to be my new finder scope. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm going to mount this thing on the 20-inch f3.6 truss tube Dobsonian right on the very end, you know. So
Right.
I'll just have to climb on top of the telescope and ride it like a Bronco. Beatrice Hines. Yes, you're right. It's Astro Canuck. Okay. Binos are much more comfortable for observing. And Cameron wants to know, are they ED doublets or triplets? They're not ED. This is an Acromat doublet. And so, not apochromat. Astrobeard, 82 degree 8.8, the first eyepiece I bought. Thank you very much. Tim Meyer says, I have lazy eye or non-parallax vision. Binoculars give me a headache. Still very cool. Yeah. Elliot Neal is watching today. Elliot lives here in Arkansas. He says 120 millimeter lenses, anticipating to have a look-see sometime. Elliot, you can come by and take a look for yourself. Let's see. And
yeah, if you're close to Scott, and he's your friend, then it's just like having your own stuff. You can come over and see stuff anytime you want.
That's true.
And not have to buy it.
That's true. Right. Well, you still might want to buy it. Just for the cool factor, to be in the cool kids club, you got to buy one, right?
Right.
Just kidding. Randy Dodge. I sometimes use an eye patch when I get fatigued. I've seen astronomers do that. They look, they kind of look like that pirate, kind of a look,
Well, and you can keep both your eyes open too, and not have to squint or have one eye closed all the time. You can.
I think that's where people do get fatigued.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. But that's what coffee's for. Drink more coffee, and you'll take that fatigue right away. That's right, Jim. Anyhow, maybe we'll have like an Explore Scientific eye patch where it has like the little
that'd be cool
bow right there.
Yeah.
You remember those 3D, not 3D, it was X-ray vision.
X-ray vision.
Glasses, right?
Yeah. In the Popular Science magazine, the Popular Mechanics magazines back in.
All it was like colored. It was just like colored filters or something. I think it was like a red one and a blue one, or maybe they were both red. I can't remember.
Yeah, it was just
X-ray.
Well, what it did is it gave you two views of your hand and make look an overlap, and it showed a dark area in the middle, of your hand, and then it was blurry on the outside, made it look like a skeleton in your fingers. It's just
when you got done screaming,
one of them goofy diffraction things.
That's right. Yeah, Aaron says that coffee solves all problems. It certainly does in the morning. I'll tell you that right now. But anyhow, I don't know where you can get a good eye patch. Maybe Amazon.com or something. I have no idea. Eye patches are us, or your favorite pirate
store. That's right, your pirate store, your local pirate store.
That's right. So, okay, here we go. Eye patches were not originally made for a pirate lost eye. They were made to preserve night vision,
right.
to be able to see cannon sights against the night sky. See, everything starts with a telescope, doesn't it? Or astronomy somehow,
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Elliot says, I'll bring a Cool Kid Club observing chair. Right on, dude. All right. And then Andrew Corkill says, Amazon has some totally light leather ones also. Didn't know that. Well, there you go. I'd like one that's carbon fiber.
Carbon fiber. That'd be cool.
Fiber.
We could sell it for $50.
Right. Jim says he got sick of eye patches after his cataract surgery. Yeah, I can understand that too. Well, anyhow, we're back with Jerry, and we have been following along with his mentor program. We had recommended his book in the last program, which is about scientific imaging. It's available. It's a Springer book. It's available at springer.com. Do you have a copy of the book that you can show?
Yeah. Yep. Got it right here.
Okay. This is a great book. We do recommend it. It's not a puff piece for Explore Scientific. It is a. It's got some great contributors to it.
Can you see that?
Yep, see it just fine. So scientific astrophotography. Now you may think this is just for science imaging, but it's not.
It's not.
It
It's
really does help you choose an astrophotography imaging system that will get you the highest performance per dollar that you spend. And so, but it's all about matching, balancing the mount, the telescope, and the camera. So. And as we discussed last time, this will give you a critical thinking process so that you can choose the best system for your particular needs. So
right. That's exactly what it's all about.
you may already have all the equipment that you need, maybe, or most of the puzzle anyways, and maybe you just need to upgrade this piece or that piece or whatever.
Right,
And
or
then,
or configure it a different way for whatever you're doing, and because that's one thing, one of the things that I get into at the beginning
mhm.
is you may not know exactly what you want, but there's no need to spend a huge amount of money on your
Like
first
starting
system.
off from scratch.
Yeah, you're starting off from scratch. You don't want to spend a huge amount of money on any one piece. You want to know if you're going to get into it or not. So, one thing you build for yourself is a training system, basically. You get basic components that
Yeah.
allow you to use and demonstrate all the techniques and technologies that are available to you
Hmm.
at the low end, right? And then
Right.
you train yourself, and then you push the performance of the system to where your skills and knowledge are seeing the limits. Once you know your skills and knowledge are high enough to detect the limits of your equipment, then you start upgrading, or then you pass on your training system to somebody else to learn, and then
Hmm.
you decide what pieces you want to buy to build a whole new system that does exactly what you want with
Right.
the objects that you're interested in.
Right.
And that's where you really get the most bang for your buck too,
Right.
is defining the system as you want it, as you want to get into it. You don't waste money on anything that you're not going to use, basically. And that's what the book's all about.
Hmm. Ferris says, that's okay. I guess they're having a conversation. Uh, I'm living in Berlin and thinking of selling my telescopes. Doesn't make any sense. But never my binos. Actually, we have people. Well, I mean, let's just take like Chuck Ayub, for example. He lives 6 blocks away from downtown Detroit. Would you think that anybody in downtown Detroit would be able to do astrophotography? I think that Chuck has something like half a dozen NASA APODs, astronomy picture of the day images. He always images from his backyard, which is extremely light polluted.
Mm-hmm.
But what he's done is he's gone the path of doing narrowband imaging, and it's really remarkable what you can do from your backyard. So I wouldn't give up the idea of having a telescope system in Berlin. I know it's very light polluted there. I've been there, but you would be utterly shocked to see what can be done with narrowband. So.
Yeah, so that's what talks. Amateurs bring their skills and knowledge to develop techniques and new ways of doing things to overcome these barriers that we have, right? So
Mhm.
Chuck is a prime example of that. Using narrowband imaging, he's developed specific techniques to find objects and to image them, and gotten great results as if you're out in the middle of the desert.
Yeah, yeah. Let me see if I can
So,
find an
mhm.
example of Chuck's work. I
So
think.
that tells you that's a good example that shows you that it's not all about the equipment; it's about your skills and knowledge, and that's what you're doing when you buy equipment to train on. You're investing in yourself.
Very true. Oh yeah, here's some images. Let me share my screen here just so people can see some of the work that Chuck has done. If you're unfamiliar with Chuck, um, You should definitely look him up. He's been doing stuff on TikTok recently. He got almost 1 million views of some solar images that he had done with an Explore Scientific telescope. These shots right here, these shots are done from his backyard in Detroit. Okay, so if you'd asked me 10 years ago, could you do that from a city like Detroit, I would say that would be absolutely impossible. Look at that. That's an
That's
incredible
amazing.
shot of the eagle there. You know, I mean, that's the Pillars of Creation area region right there. There's another, I mean, beautiful image. He was featured on ZWO's website. You can see all these apods right here. So there's a couple of them. Pelican Nebula, just stunning stuff. Okay, so it can absolutely be done. And of course, that is Chuck there. There's an Explore Scientific telescope behind him. So we're real proud to be featured like that with him. So that's really cool. But I will let you take it from here, Jerry.
Jason Gunzel does work like that too.
He does. Yes, he does. I don't know how dark it is at Jason's location, but we're seeing really high quality imaging done from cities from around the world. And the narrowband filters that are out there right now, and there's several manufacturers making them. They're not inexpensive, but I think if you looked at the cost of you driving to a dark sky site, okay, setting everything up for maybe 1 or 2 nights on a dark sky, dark of the moon weekend, gosh, you don't get to use your equipment very much like that, versus you being in your backyard and using narrowband filters, and let's say you only get 1 or 2 hours of clear sky, okay, but you can be productive for that 1 or 2 hours.
Right.
And that's what Gary Palmer does.
Yeah, Gary Palmer's really up on that.
Yeah.
Being productive as soon as you got a little bit of sky.
Right.
Because in England, they don't have very good skies in England.
Oh yeah, yeah, and to see how many incredible deep sky images Gary has, it's like you would think it would be almost impossible. But if you put all those constraints on yourself, that I'm not going to do this unless the sky's at least reasonably great,
Right.
If my neighbor's got a porch light on, I'm just going to sit there and fume over light pollution, versus you being able to work with it and, and be productive and do some beautiful stuff like
Right.
that. So,
And learn new stuff and learn techniques, overcome problems. That's
and that's
part of
what
the
amateur astronomers do.
Well, that's part of this. Yeah, that's exactly a big part of this hobby is overcoming issues and understanding and learning things. So it's the journey. It's not the end result.
That's very true. That's very true.
And a lot of people when they start into this, they get hooked on the end result and they figure that that's the meat of the hobby is the end result. But that's
Yeah,
like
I used to dream about having this super dark sky site in Arizona somewhere, 2 hours away from any city lights, and I think about that and it's like, I don't know the rest of my family would like that, so now on the other hand, I might love that every clear night that there is,
right.
but it is nice to not have to drive, a couple hours just to go out to eat tacos or something. So, right? Because there ain't no taco stand out there.
Nope.
No. So what would you like to cover today in your mentor program?
I hadn't. I've been busy working on other stuff today, so I apologize for not putting too much thought into it. But I can go over a couple of sections. Let me see here. I can go over a couple of concepts.
Yep.
That I'm going to pull out of the book here, and it has to do with your mount. All right, and these are two big things that beginners get hung up on. I'm gonna share my screen. I'm gonna go to a section in my book and just use that as a talking points, and I'll just talk. I won't necessarily read what's on the screen, but I'll show what's in the book on the screen so you guys can look at it in your leisure. So, all right. So on the mount, there's different factors when you're using your mount that you got to take care of, okay? I guess I'm going to scroll down here past this, past the mount types. All right, I'm going to pass this up. We're going to talk about adjustments to the mount. And primary to that is a puller alignment. So puller alignment, along with periodic error, are the two big topics that beginners might find when they first start into this hobby. When they start looking at a mount, they'll hear these terms, polar alignment and periodic error. And people have a lot of questions about it all the time. We get customer questions all the time about how do I do a polar alignment? What do I use? How can I use this polar scope that comes with my mount to do a polar alignment? And there's a couple of myths about polar alignment that I think get propagated because of some of the tools that are available today to achieve a certain performance level. And Gary talks about this some too, in terms of polar alignment. So it's specifically about polar alignment.
On polar alignment, right?
Right. So people find it difficult sometimes to do a polar alignment with their polar alignment scope because they got to kneel down and look up through the right ascension axis and get lined up, and then they're worried about not being right on. So there's two things. If you're doing visual work with your scope, which most beginners, I would suggest that most beginners, no matter how much they want to get into astrophotography, that the first tip is that do yourself a favor and just do visual and learn the system, the mount, the normal day-to-day operation of the mount with the visual, with the eyepiece on your telescope. And don't even think about astrophotography, because that's a whole nother level of difficulty, or I should say experience, that you're going to have to get through. So if you're doing visual work, just take your mount out, and for visual work, specifically for polar alignment, it's really very forgiving. You could start out learning polar alignment instead of trying to get perfect right off the bat by spending 20 hours teaching yourself how to do polar alignment without any high-tech tools, right? With just the polar alignment scope, or even learning drift alignment. I always suggest people learn drift alignment regardless, but it takes a little bit of time to learn that. But again, just use a compass and learn about magnetic declination.
That's
okay?
Right.
And just align your mount that way first. Just start out just doing that. And magnetic
And that
declination.
the basic concept of what's going to happen anyways, right?
Right, exactly. You don't have to be perfect. You could be a half a degree off the polar alignment. It doesn't matter. You'll get close and you'll be able to find things in the sky visually and learn. And that's the other thing. Get a good, and I suggest a zero power finder, either a red dot finder or a regular finder, right?
Yeah.
And just do the basics. Learn the basics. That's the first thing you need to do with your telescope. But magnetic declination allows you just to use your compass on your phone to do a simple alignment, azimuth, which is the horizontal direction for aligning, and then altitude. And then once you get the azimuth close, then you can get the altitude right. And again, you can just use your phone. If you've got a compass and a level application on your phone, you can put your level on your mount, on your telescope, and adjust the altitude to where it's equal to your latitude. And that's close enough. That's absolutely close enough for visual work. And that's the way I would start out that. So don't get hung up as a beginner. Don't get hung up on polar alignment when you're starting out. Ease into it. Get comfortable with using your scope and adjusting the mount and altitude and azimuth to get it to go where you want before you start thinking about how to get it within 10 arc minutes or 5 arc minutes. And there's tools out there like the Polemaster. QHY makes a thing called the Polemaster, which is a camera system that mounts on your right ascension axis and looks up at the sky and will direct you quickly to adjust your altitude and azimuth to get polar aligned within probably an arc minute or better. Now, that's only needed when you're doing astrophotography. And I could even argue that you don't even need a near perfect polar alignment with astrophotography if you're a portable system. There's a lot of factors involved with that, and I could get into that. I don't want to get into it today, but there are a lot of factors involved with doing astrophotography where you balance one need over another and different factors, and to get the same result, basically. So we'll get into that later. But in terms of learning how to do polar alignment, start out manually polar aligning it with either a tool like your phone with a magnetic compass and a level, and or your polar alignment scope. If you want to look up through your polar alignment scope, you can do that. But don't get hung up on it. I would get comfortable doing that practice, getting it close, because you're going to need to do that anyway. If you're portable and you're going to go out in the field, you'll need to get the first level of precision or accuracy by just doing that basic step, right? And then you can use some other method to tweak it even tighter, like the drift alignment method I talked about. That's when you do the fine adjustment and get it near perfect for doing astrophotography. So you can look at it like a two-step process.
Right. And earlier last year, I did a presentation on how to do drift alignment. And if we have some new people watching now that would like to learn how to do that, I'd be very happy to, do that whole presentation over again. So.
Right. So are there any questions in that so far?
Well, let's see. Norm Hughes makes a comment. Polar doesn't have to be dead on perfect. Slight misalignments can be compensated for in regard to short exposure photography. Level is very important, though.
So let's talk about level a minute. So level is important only in terms of getting consistent results. Okay, what I'm saying there is that if you want to be portable and you bring your mount out and set it up every night and you bring it back in your house, it's good to be consistent with your setup. Okay, that means you make spots on the ground where you put your tripod every time. You lock your altitude and azimuth after you get it polar aligned the first time. You lock it so that it won't move when you bring your scope in and out of the house. Also, you make sure when you first start this process that you level the mount. That way, every time you take it out, you level the tripod and the mount, and you know you're going to get consistent results. So that's the way I look at the need for leveling, is really to maintain a consistent result, not necessarily to get an alignment, because the tripod doesn't have to be level to get an alignment, because you're aligning the altitude and the azimuth separate from the axis of the tripod by the orientation of the tripod. So, and that's the way I would look at that.
Right. Now, I think you told me that you used to always go in and out. I mean, you use the observatory now, but you used to go in and out and set up your telescope. Didn't
Oh,
you?
yeah.
You said something like 400 or 500 times during.
Well, for 4 years, every week is over 250 times I set it up
250
complete,
times.
and for astrophotography, not just for visual use, but a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
A whole bunch of stuff. And I can bring up a picture of one of my
Yeah.
setups.
How fast? I mean, once you started getting this wired, how quickly could you set it up where it was good enough to do your work?
So where I got fast at, so I usually took my time setting it up, because I'd usually start when it's still daylight, and I wouldn't rush through the setup. I want to make sure when I get down to working that it was correct. I don't want to have to troubleshoot problems. So when you're setting it up, this is what I would suggest. You take your time, set up. I'd start an hour before that I wanted to start doing my twilight calibration frames. on astrophotography. So I would start out an hour, and I would bring all my stuff out and make sure, and you choreograph it. You get to the point where everything has its place, and you put everything back in its place, so that you know where it's at and when you need it when you're setting up, and then also when you take it down, you're going to put it back in the same place so that the next time around you can find it easily when you need it to put it back together. So that was the process I went through to get it, and I spent about an hour setting it up. Talking to neighbors, people would come by, and I would tell them what I was doing and stuff. That type of stuff, just like an outreach thing. So, but don't get distracted.
That's easy to do.
That's easy to do when you're talking to somebody and you're doing something.
How far away things are.
Yeah, you'll get ahead of yourself, and you'll start doing things, and you say, "What did I do this other thing?" So you get out of sequence.
Right.
So that's important too. But so
spend about I spend a checklist like you recommend.
Right, exactly.
At least you can go one step back and check it.
Right. That's what a checklist is for. You do the things, and then you go back and see, did I do this? Yes, I did that. I did that. Okay.
Sure.
And so that took me an hour. I'd spend about 20 minutes. Now, when I did the alignment, since I knew where I set my mount, it'd only take me 5 minutes to do a drift alignment. And I'd just tweak it in. I got that good to where it only took me 5 minutes to do that because I practiced, and that's all it should take. So I don't need no fancy gadget to spend 5 minutes to do the alignment. You just do it. You just learn it yourself. The other thing is that once you do that, and it's all set up and you're connected, then you're ready to go. It's just like I do today when I start at the observatory. It takes me all of 5 minutes to start up the observatory and open the shutter and slew to an object.
Right.
But the big thing is shutting down. Now, I used to spend 6-8 hours under the sky, from sunset till 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning sometimes.
You're probably there sometimes.
And then, so now you think about it, you're out there once or twice a week, and every time you get done with a session that you've been out there 8 hours, now you got to spend an hour packing it away. And you got to have the discipline to do that.
That part's a real drag.
That's the part that's the worst. That's the discipline part, really. Yeah. And then the weather's cold too. I'd go out there when it was minus 20 degrees Fahrenheit. Oh, I'm sorry, not minus 20. About 10 degrees Fahrenheit, not that cold. It's minus 10 degrees Celsius.
Teeth
yeah, it's 20 degrees. It's cold.
Oh yeah, that's cold, and you're just sitting there. You're not running around or doing jumping jacks or something.
Right. So now, this is when you get into your equipment. You're a combination guy like I am. You get into your equipment, but you also get into what you're doing with the observing.
Yeah.
So you want to spend the time touching and setting up your equipment. You don't want it just, that's the way I was early on anyway.
Right.
I was really passionate about learning, and that's what drove me to write this book.
Yep.
And so, like you said, I probably was really extreme about it compared to most, pretty much 99% of other people out there.
It's a great book. It's a great book. It's it covers many aspects that you wouldn't think about, and like any book, I mean, you're adapting it for how you work too,
Right.
And if there's something that you don't need out of it, then you don't use that part, So, but at least the data's there, and you might go back later and going, oh, there is actually a real reason why he wrote that, So.
Right. Well, like we said the last time, I think when you write things down, you tend to remember it better too. It kind of connects things. So, and then when you read your note, you'll say, oh yes, I remember exactly what happened there. I need to do this next time. And it helps accelerate your training and your self-teaching when you can practice and try things. And that's another big tip that I would give everybody. Don't be afraid to try anything that you want to do with your equipment.
True.
You don't have to ask us if it will do this.
Yeah, you don't need our permission.
You don't need our permission or our advice. Maybe we didn't design it for that, but you've got an idea to make it do something.
Yeah.
Try it.
You get people that say, gosh, can I put the Barlow in with the whatever in this too?
Right.
They want all the answers before they even try it.
Right, exactly.
Instead of going boom, boom, boom and going, you know what, that didn't work. Okay, let's try another.
That's a neat part of this hobby. That's a big part of this hobby is trying new things.
It's the fun part of this hobby
too,
I think. So.
Yep. The other thing that you need to keep thinking about, and beginners get hung up on, is periodic error and declination drift. Now, declination drift is related to polar alignment accuracy.
Yeah.
Periodic error is related to the intrinsic part of the mount. The gear system is going to have periodic error, and there's ways to overcome it, which typically involves some kind of auto guiding system. But you'll learn that when you get into astrophotography. You don't have to. There's no thinking about periodic error when you're doing visual observing. You don't even care about it. But if you're going to get into astrophotography, then you'll want to learn a lot about what periodic really is, what's involved with it, what adjustments you can make on your mount to help minimize it. But again, periodic error, people tend to think, this is even recently on the forum, people see these little oblong stars when they're doing their imaging after a minute or 2 minute exposure, whatever. They see this oblong star and say, well, it must be my guiding. It must be something related to my guiding, or it's something with the tracking rate is not quite right. Right. So it could be. It very well could be. But there's 5 other things it could be also, and it's hard to, unless you really study it, you can't detect the difference between this error and that error because the symptoms look similar or the same.
One of the areas that I found that would fool a lot of people is that they don't think that their telescope or mount has any flexure in it. They can't see it.
Right.
They move their telescope around. This thing looks like it's the rocket.
It's solid, right? It's solid, right?
It's not.
Now, when we're talking about the minute changes,
all those professional telescopes out there, they all flex. And so they have to compensate for that. So there are ways of doing that, but you have to understand that metal bends and mirrors shift and all of that stuff. So that's something to consider. Slightly missing polar alignment. You can work it to your advantage, or you can be frustrated because you got a star making a
right. It's all about learning different ways to overcome issues and having these in your tool belt. So when you see a problem, you say, oh, I know what that is. I'll just do this to compensate for it or to fix it. One of the other things about that can cause oblong stars is, it's not just intrinsic in the mount system. It could also be external. So if you see these, I've seen where you got these high wispy clouds that you don't see with your naked eye when you look at the sky.
Okay.
But it will blur the stars as they move, and it'll smear it in the direction that they're moving.
Oh, really? Huh.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And that's what causes oblong stars, too.
Mm-hmm.
People don't, there's a lot of things like that you don't understand.
Yeah, I would think that like high clouds would just make it just overall blurry, but if you're saying the clouds are moving whatever direction, that can smear the light.
It kind of biases the way the light is spread.
I see. Right. And astrophotographers get very, very picky. They're blowing up their images, 200 times, 400 times,
400 times.
Whatever. Looking at every star from the center to the edge and looking for perfect. And once you get to a certain level of your expertise and your images are coming out really nice, then you kind of have to go that extreme, to get better.
If you want to get even better, if you want to get to be world class, now, that's a difficult position to get to. It's a lot of work to get world class.
Right.
Because there are amazing astrophotographers out there, and you don't understand. And even I sometimes think of, man, how do they do that?
Right.
But it's basically attention to detail and thousands of hours.
Yes.
Is what it is.
Yeah, that's right. So, Jason Gonzalez is one of these guys, that you just look at some of his solar work and his deep sky work, and even his planetarium. He's just almost good at everything that he does, and it's just he gets jaw-dropping results. It's crazy. So, there's a couple of comments here. One of the comments about polar alignment is to make marks on the ground, okay, where you had your tripod last.
Yes, that's
So
right.
that's a trick I've used a lot. When we used to go to the desert, when we were in Southern California, we would have guys drive in really long nails into the ground, right underneath where their tripod was, cover it up with dirt, and then they kind of knew where they were before, and they had like a little metal detector,
Oh yeah,
and they'd
yeah.
find them, beep, 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 like that, and they knew exactly where it was, and then they'd just set their tripod back on top of it. I mean, leaving nails out in the middle of the national park is not cool, but as long as you're taking them out, later on, it's probably nothing more devastating than like a tent stake. But they're also covered up, so it's not like someone's going to trip over it or something. But there is the whole thing about trying to leave nature at least as good as you found it. So,
Right.
um,
But being
yeah,
consistent and setting up your system identically every time. Do the same
yeah,
thing every time, every time. That's how you get consistent results and high performance results. If you're
that's right.
scatterbrained, if you set it up one way one night and then another way the next night, you'll never get consistent
You never
results.
get that's true, and it can be really frustrating. It
Oh,
can
and
be
that's how
really
people
frustrating 'cause
frustrate themselves. They try
you
different
don't think
things.
it's you doing it, right? You'll think that it's something
Right.
that's happening from somewhere else.
Well,
So
people get frustrated and they say, "Well, this didn't work last time. I'll try something else." And then they'll try something else and then they'll
yeah,
do
yeah. Got
they
to
don't
stick with
understand the
one
issue.
and just kind of keep. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
they
like
don't
you're learning to
understand the
play the
problem.
violin. You have to learn how to hit that one note, or whatever. So,
Yeah.
um, some other comments here. Bill Nash says drift alignment is a great skill to have. Dusty says doing well. Just got. Oh, okay. Here we go. He's talking to. You guys talk with each other. That's good though. Norm Hughes says PhD drift alignment works very well for fine tuning for polar.
Mm-hmm.
Norm Hughes says I use drift alignment every time I set up my scope before I permanently mounted it. Now that's the ultimate,
Well, that's the
permanent
ultimate,
mounting.
right? That's what I do.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, let's see. Aaron Thompson, as a beginner, each night I go out and I find my goals list keeps getting shorter and shorter. Lots of laughs. Cameron Gillis, what's the best way to polar align during the day, assuming you can see the moon? What do you think, Jerry?
Well, there is a specific technique that you can use with the level and a compass to set up during the day, like I said before, to get close.
Okay.
And then you can use the mount's intrinsic precision to position the telescope like vertical. I pointed to zenith, and then you can align to zenith basically, because you have gravity vector to tell you where zenith is, and you can measure the top of your scope across the objective. I'm assuming a refractor, or
Mm-hmm.
even a Newtonian. You can put
Mm-hmm.
a level across it and measure level both ways and know it's vertical, right? And the mount knows when vertical is, right, based on
True.
its position. So once you get that, then you're very, very close, and you adjust your altitude and your azimuth to get that vertical correct.
Right.
At that point, then you can take it and park it and then slew it to the moon. And then, so that's like a sync. That's kind of like a sync where you just tweak it. At that point, I would probably suggest that you loosen the clutches and point it at the moon and tighten them, and then you
Pretty
should be good to
close.
go. Pretty
Pretty
damn
close.
close.
I saw a guy one time he had his setting circle really dialed in. He had calibrated it before on the sky. We can discuss how to do that later because it's a little bit of a involved kind of thing, but not hard to do. But what he would do exactly what you described. He would point the telescope straight up, but really what he would do is he would look at the declination setting circle and set the declination setting circle to, he knew what his latitude was, so if
Right.
he's 32 degrees, you put it at 32 degrees declination, and then you adjust the equatorial mount so that it balances the bubble level up on top of the telescope,
Right.
on the lens cap. Okay.
Right.
You need a flat lens cap, and if you don't have one, take your curved, really cool looking lens cap off, but lay that bubble level right across the top of maybe your dew shield, and then you can make a real fine adjustment. You'll get very, very close, maybe closer than the half degree, variation that
Yeah.
Jerry was discussing. So the other way to do it is just cheat. Go out the night before, get on Polaris,
Right.
and mark off where your tripod legs are, and then you can go out in the daytime and plunk that thing down.
Right. Exactly. Plunk it down. You'll be damn close.
You'll be really close. So
Especially for visual use. You'll be close
Right.
enough for visual use.
right.
Yep.
All right. But Norm says experimentation will hone your skills and teach you your equipment limitations. That's true.
Yep.
Okay, David Samard, he's actually got a PMC-8 question. He says he's playing in the basement with the mount because it's not nice sometime. It will freeze on him, and he shuts her down. Is that going to do any damage to the PMC-8?
So
Not
say
sure
that
why it's
again.
freezing on him, but
It's freeze. The mount's freezing on him, and you mean to
That's what he
stop
says.
moving?
hmm
It should be no. I mean, there's nothing really that can damage the PMC-8 in terms
even
of.
if you, let's say that we jam the worm gear right up against the crown gear so tight that it wouldn't move for some reason. Okay.
Yeah, you're not gonna.
Damage the PMC-8, nor would it damage the motor, for example. So, David, we probably need to get into that with you and see why this is happening.
Right.
If it's a temperature change, if you got a big temperature change or something like that. Of course, it is getting winter time. We did have, in my mead days, we would have people change out the grease on the worm wheel and the crown gear of their mounts, to a better grease that wouldn't get, more thick. So there's things that can be done along those lines. Maybe it's just a simple adjustment, so we just need to get into it with you. If you want, here I'm just going to go ahead and type in my mobile number, and you can call me after, and we can narrow it down. So that's it.
I got my micro muted because my dogs heard some noise outside.
Cameron wanted to thank you for the tips, Jerry. So,
Oh, no problem. You're welcome.
And he also comments, now that my new smartphone allows me to extend exposure times at 30 seconds, I'm starting to do astrophotography. So that's cool.
That's cool.
And Astro Canuck says, pre-lockdown, I'd have large lorries, trucks driving down my street, and there was an impact on some images occasionally. Wow. Okay.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So
Bill Nash says, simply walking near your tripod mount during exposure has an impact too. Actually, that's true. The
yeah,
ground,
that is true. But I was able to set my mount up on the deck, my back deck, and work within my house, and it was fine.
right on your deck. Oh wow.
Yeah, on my back deck.
Yeah.
But it wasn't bad.
Pekka has a question for you, Jerry. He says, so I don't have to think about PE if I'm guiding?
No, that's what guiding is for, is to correct for PE. So in that regard, if your guiding is working well, then you don't have to worry about your PE because you're correcting for it. Now, in terms of getting a correct auto guider system, hold on.
Yeah.
then you have to worry about your PE, how much your PE is, and that may that may affect how you tune your auto guiding system, the magnitude of your PE.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And there's a new message. Let's just double check. Bill Nash says, I'm clearly a lot denser than Jerry. I blame burritos.
Burritos.
Burritos, yes. And Michael Whitaker wants to know what's the minimum temp that PMC-Eight, where it might become affected.
That's it's pretty low because people up in Canada use it in the dead of winter, less than 0 degrees Fahrenheit. So I expect it would be good to -10, probably.
Yeah. Michael says, he said, oh, he doesn't say what his temperature is. That's true. -10 is pretty cold.
The box does have, it's a heat sink for in the summertime, the box,
Yeah.
the big metal box, but also the board generates its own self-heating. So even the one thing you would do in the wintertime to keep that from working is put an insulator around the box so that it can maintain some warmth inside.
Right.
And that'll be fine. That'll keep it above freezing.
Sure.
The battery is the only thing I would worry about. Any kind of system that you have out in the field in the cold, is the battery is what you have to worry about, and not the PMC-8 so much.
Right. Yeah. Be interesting to, we do have Canadian astrophotographers that are out there, and they get out. I mean, those guys are so robust. They'll be out there in -10, -20. It's just like, that's just way too cold for any comfort for me. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, that's not fun.
I mean, it gets down to the 30s, and I'm just like, that's cold.
Oh yeah.
Okay. And Elliot says, I had to learn the hard way not to walk too close to the tripod when exposing an image. One footprint could sink an adjacent tripod leg in soft ground just enough to ruin a picture.
Oh yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, you have to. It's good to put down pavers or something if you're in the yard in the grass. Put pavers down to put and then make sure they're pressed hard into the ground so they don't move.
Right. Pekka's recommending a long dew heater band around the mount head there in Sweden. I would imagine Sweden gets very cold too. And Dave Ings says he doesn't hear your smoke alarm anymore.
What smoke alarm?
Jerry's still in denial.
What are you talking about?
See, when I look right at you, that's called breaking the third wall, okay?
I don't know.
He doesn't know. All right, guys. Well, is this a logical place to wrap up today's show?
Yeah, I think that's fine. I've got to, I'm still working on the mentor training for our customer service people.
Okay.
And the program, there's still a lot of work to be done on it. I'm kind of winging it right now with these programs here, with sharing it with everybody on these programs.
There's a lot going on at Explore Scientific right now. A lot going on. I know Jerry's on many projects right now, and we are still working very hard to answer all those questions that are coming in from people who just got all that equipment that we sold them. So, so customer service is stretched, and but we're still here with you. And for anyone that has had a tough time getting through, totally can understand. But you've got my mobile phone number there in that chat, and I'm happy to answer questions for you. So until tomorrow, we're going to have Terry Mann on from the Astronomical League. We're going to talk about the second Astronomical League live program that she's putting together. And I'm not sure if Kent will be on tomorrow or not, but I look forward to seeing you, and we'll talk some more about all things astronomical, and and maybe some other giant binoculars as well. So
Yeah, that'd be cool.
yeah, okay. So you guys keep looking up. Thank you for watching, and we will be back tomorrow. Take care. I need like a little jingle, a song or something.
That's right. You got to come up with some
I
kind of
cannot
outro
sing,
music.
folks. I'm sorry.
I guess it has to be
I
custom.
think I can sing. I think I can, but you guys listen to it and you're going to be like, "Oh my god!" So
You have to make up your
anyhow,
own. You have to make up your own outro music because you'll get dinged on the thing.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. All right. Thanks very much, and buy Jerry's book, by the way. So take care, and
Thank you,
until
Scott.
tomorrow. Bye.